Our next guest has just been named Canada's top female entrepreneur by Profit magazine. She's also a self-described former bully who has seen the error of her ways. She used to think getting ahead in a man's world meant using strong-arm tactics. Kelsey Ramsden runs 3 successful businesses in construction, consulting, and kids' toys, and she does this while raising 3 young children. Congratulations, Kelsey, on your title there.
Thanks.
But a bully. Give us an example of what you might have done in the past that would be described as bullying.
Right. Well, when I first started out in business, I kind of had this mentality of kind of the Godfather thing. That's what I'd grown up watching on TV. Was business people were kind of mean and gristly.
The Godfather.
The Godfather is pretty mean. It is. But I thought that's kind of the way that it was to be done. I grew up in construction, and although I saw it very much kind of from the sidelines as a kid, that's how those type of fields were very much portrayed, in what I would have seen in the media. And so then when I grew up and I started my own construction company, I thought that's the way, I should do things. And it turned out that worked in the very short term. It got me, by bullying, it was mostly just influence on price and trying to kind of grind out the last thing on every deal. And then as I grew, I started to realize that that wasn't really developing long-term relationships. It was getting harder and harder to get good suppliers behaving that way. And ultimately, my greatest success is in developing and building bigger businesses and what I would call long-standing ones, is in developing strong relationships based on integrity and a lot of other things, but not being a meanie, which I started out being.
So I've learned being very nice to people all the time is the way to go. That's why they call me Mr. Wonderful. But I want to go in a different direction. I want to ask you about, men and women in business. And in the last 4 or 5 years, it seems to me that there's no discrimination anymore between the two. It's really based on performance, because the average shelf life of a CEO, man or woman, is about 36 months.
Right.
They come in, they get hired, they don't perform, they get whacked. I think that's fair, don't you?
It's absolute. I mean, that's the deal, right? It's performance. I absolutely agree with that. I don't think there should be discrimination.
So, I mean, I don't think the debate anymore is she a woman, is she a man, is she a goat? It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's, can you deliver the results shareholders want? You're on side for that, right? I'm
totally on side for that. I get asked that question often, in a woman in a man's business and that kind of thing. And I think personally, I've always just ignored it. I've had guys ask me to get them coffee and this and that and the other thing, and that's fine. I will happily get you coffee, but you may not have a job. That's the kind of thing that if the roles were reversed, that same kind of thing would happen. I think ultimately you keep your head down, you outwork them, outsmart them, outwit them, perform, and you'll be around. It's that simple. I don't care what you're wearing.
Now, another part of your story is the fact that you were diagnosed with cervical cancer.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what that taught you. Obviously, you're healthy
I'm well,
today.
yeah, I'm very well. It taught me that I shouldn't sweat the small stuff so much. It taught me that I didn't have to be involved in every single detail of everything. I had a bit of a complex of being the busy complex, I call it, like busy makes me powerful. I felt that, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of get off on that for a while because you have to be at the start, absolutely. But ultimately, I thought, okay, well, if I die, there is no Brinks truck following me to heaven. So what is the show about? I have 3 young children, and so I changed a few things. And I'm grateful for the opportunity, it's a bit of a sick and twisted thing to say, but cancer was probably one of the greatest blessings of my life.
Wow. No Brinks truck following her to heaven, Kevin. That's something you can remember.
You can't take it with you. That's the theme, right?
Sorry.
But while you're here, it's nice to have.
It's very lovely to have.
So let me ask you a question that many entrepreneurs ask each other. If you've had success, which is you have, do you feel you owe the upcoming generation some guidance on how to get there? And if there were the top 3 things you could tell any young entrepreneur, particularly women, because frankly, these days, it doesn't matter. If you have the drive, you can make it either way. Man, woman, girl, boy, who cares? Yeah. So what's your advice to a young entrepreneur? Because we've been very happy at Dragon's Den to see all these young kids wanting to become entrepreneurs now.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your first point, absolutely, it's very important to be a mentor for young people. For sure, some of my greatest breaks have come from people who have mentored me, answered the phone when they didn't have to, when I was no one and no reason to. And I think the most important things I would say are, just ignore some of the naysayers. I think it's too easy to give up too soon. It's hard. It's that simple. Like, there aren't a lot of Facebooks. Everybody wants to be the next big guy in the show. It takes a long time to become Kevin O'Leary. It takes a long time to develop the career you've developed. And a lot of kids, I think it happens overnight like a Mark Zuckerberg deal, and that's not the way it is. It's hard. Second thing is, you have to be willing to be crafty and don't follow the rules all the time. You have to get imaginative and creative. I think there's a large component of people, and I graduated from a wonderful business school, and it taught me a million things and a great network. But beyond that, you have to take that out and do something with it. I always say having a hammer just makes you a carpenter. So now what? You go out and create something, craft it. And so I think a lot of people do a lot of training and then don't go out and get nimble with their minds and do something really ingenuitive. And the final thing, I think, is just be very respectful and mindful of relationships, because you never know where you will end up and who else will end up there with you or without you. And I think the bulldozer only works for so long, and long-term success is really where it's at.
We're out of time. I wanted to ask you your time management trips or tricks,
sorry.
but I ran out of time for that. I'll have to catch them later.
You can get those actually on my website, kelseyramsden.com. I've got a blog post that explains those, which are
how you do it with three kids.
How I do it with
and
three
all
kids.
three
and
companies,
fun.
3 kids. My goodness. All right. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.